everyone, my name is Forum Patel and today I am doing a video story on coffee beans demands by the cafes after lockdown. So here we're gonna interview one of the coffee beans roastery based in the Wellington which supplies coffee beans to 15 other cafes. What you will see in the next clip is me doing interview of Rich Coffee Beans co-founder. So here we go. What was the scenario of the coffee demand before quarantine?
It was tracking really nicely. Like I think, there was, coffee is quite seasonal, so the demand for coffee, so everything was sort of, tracking as it should be. We're seeing a little bit of interest and growth with our brand and stuff like that. So it was kind of nice to see a few things sort of cropping up before COVID. So we had a few inquiries about cafes using our product and those sort of went on hold pretty much as soon as so with the onset of COVID, we noticed we were expecting that would just be paused.
What is the condition of the roasted coffee beans demand after COVID-19?
Well, initially during COVID, we obviously seen a huge drop off. Coffee was in a special position where it was considered an essential food item.
Yeah.
So during COVID, we were allowed to roast a little bit of coffee. And that little bit of coffee enabled us just to take over, just a business on life support essentially. Then after COVID, obviously it was a slow build up to the numbers that we were seeing before pre-COVID. So it took time to sort of wind back up. We noticed certain areas specifically around town. So the areas around Parliament and the larger businesses which had sort of more condensed workspaces was slower to wind back up than say the smaller businesses. Maybe you're talking your Cuba Street sort of end and your sort of more open smaller offices and stuff were able to get back on track a little bit quicker. So we did notice a difference.
Yeah. What is the financial impact on demand of the roasted coffee beans?
Initially we discussed it and we were just assuming things would just plateau. So we were just thinking things would just go down the road of just nothing happening much for 18 months until maybe we've seen some sort of resolution or maybe they had some sort of way of dealing with COVID. So we were sort of waiting for the health response. And we weren't expecting to see anything, but if anything, we've seen a slight bounce back with consumers. Potentially, maybe they're not sitting in cafes and ordering more takeaway coffees, which could account for some of that. Yeah. But certainly, those areas where people felt a little bit more safer being in, the less sort of condensed population areas, have seen a bit of a spike in coffee sales as opposed to the more condensed parts of town. So maybe again we're talking that sort of Cuba Street sort of Wellington spread out area, and of course a growth in sort of residential cafes that might have boomed during the weekend but are now sort of picking up some more trade during the week as well. So for us it's around the same, which is quite interesting. So what that tells me is people's coffee habits haven't really changed, but where they're drinking them has.
So what are the biggest challenges you guys are facing because of the pandemic?
Well, I think the uncertainty, so if it was to all go down again, where would we be? The government's been super generous up until this point, and obviously we're fairly pragmatic in the respect that we'd like to think that there was more to give, and it seems like they've budgeted money to put aside for future sort of outbreaks and things like that. But as we've seen in Auckland, it's not always easy. So if you look at the Auckland market, obviously it's devastating for them, and we really feel for what was going down there. And the rest of the country was relatively very fortunate. So the potential things it would be the uncertainty. So always we're fairly cautious, and so we've been making sure that we've got enough to cover and some, and just building up reserves for now. You know, we'll be fairly cautious about any sort of extravagant things going on, but we'll, in saying that too, we, you know.
Hello guys, I'm back again in the studio. So what we got so far from this interview is people's coffee habit haven't changed much, but the way of consuming coffee is changed nowadays. And some of the cafes are not open on the weekdays, which represent how coffee business is affected because of the COVID-19. Thank you so much.